Hello and welcome back to Pay Down Debt Solutions. I'm Jen, and today we are going to discuss credit utilization, something that you might be faced with when you want to buy a home, or maybe you're looking to consolidate your finances, right? To consolidate debts. So on this channel, we teach a style of banking called velocity banking. And what that does is that gets you out of debt faster than in the traditional banking system and in that traditional banking structure. So we've all grown up learning how to, bank, or maybe you didn't learn how to bank at all because nobody ever taught you. So you did what everybody else does. And that means you've been trapped in the traditional banking system. So what we do is teach something called velocity banking using lines of credit to get yourself out of debt. And guess what, guys? Credit utilization, while it's important, it isn't the end of the world because you can use the tools you currently have right now without getting another tool to help you drop your credit utilization by running finances a different way. So we are going to teach you that today. So proof, promise, plan. Today I'm going to prove to you that velocity banking will get you out of debt much faster than you've ever been, than you've ever gotten out of debt before. Okay. I promise that by the end of this video, you're going to learn how to use your credit cards and lines of credit in a different way than you've ever done before. And plan, I'm going to show you how to plan that out and what steps to take in working down your strategy. Because in velocity banking, and when you use velocity banking, we work down our debt, we work it down to eliminate it. And it's all about the work down, about income in and expenses out. So credit utilization. So if you're finding me today, you're finding me because you've seen the credit utilization and you're curious about it, right? You want to know what to do about it and how it's figured. Well, let's discuss that. So if you have high credit utilization, should you be concerned? Well, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. It just depends on how you're doing your banking. So a good utilization score is less than 30% of your limit, okay? Which a lot of people are using a heck of a lot more than that, 30%, right, of their utilization. So we know that because, credit card, number one, credit card debt is at an all-time high for Americans. And number two, most of you that have credit cards out there, if you're using them, you're actually using them, right? So you're going to be probably using more than 30% of your utilization. So we see it obviously every single day in the students that bring us their worksheets, right? And by the way, you guys, if you want our worksheets to work down your debt, to organize all of your finances, just send us an email. It's free for you, info@paydowndebtsolutions.com. Just throw us an email. We'll be happy to send you our worksheets. No problems. Okay, so how is credit utilization calculated? Okay, so you take how much credit you're using, okay, and you're going to divide that by your credit limit, and then you're going to multiply it by 100 to get your percent, and that is your credit utilization. So my example would be if we have a $4,600 balance divided by the limit, that's 12,000, then you multiply it by 100. That means your credit utilization, or this person's credit utilization, would be at 38%, which again is higher than what they say is good credit utilization. Now, so when I think about credit utilization, I think about something else. The question shouldn't be, should you be, right? It shouldn't be why, but it should be when you should be concerned, all right? So here's the thing. If you know how to work down your debt and you have debt tools to do that, who cares what your utilization is? It doesn't matter at that point because you're not looking to get something. So the student scenario that I have on the board today is actually students of ours whose son is looking to purchase a home. Okay, so he's looking to purchase a home. He's going to be married next year, wants to purchase a home, and his utilization, of course, is high. And we'll talk about that. So one of the things that he can do, and we're going to show you exactly how he's going to work down his debt to get it under that score, okay, that 30% score. But we see people all the time with high utilization scores of like 780 and higher, okay? So when you go to your credit card, for an example, a lot of times, and I know Chase does this for one, and I think Bank of America does too, but you will see, you get your credit report, right? So you can get a credit report that's kind of like free with the fact that you have a credit card with them. So they're going to tell you what your positives and negatives are on your credit. And so a lot of times, and I used to see this all the time for myself when Dan and I were working down our strategy, because remember, we are just like you guys. And I want to make sure I drive that point home that we had credit card debt too. We were making 10K plus and we were so payment poor and our credit utilization was through the roof. We didn't know, what we were going to do. We considered bankruptcy. We went through all of this. So we are no different than you. And even if our income was high, and it was, we were still strapped, right? So here we were, and we had high utilization scores. And then as I began to use credit cards in a different way to Velocity Bank, I had high utilization, but yet my scores came up and I was at 780 plus, right? So I'm at 780 plus, but yet the cards are telling me, oh, your utilization is bad. Guess what? So what at that point, right? So what? It doesn't matter. I had a good score and I could function because I had those tools. So the credit cards and the lines of credit that you have currently right now today are the tools and that you need, and that is all you need. You don't necessarily need another tool to get yourself out of debt. So I don't necessarily put too much stock in credit utilization. I know many of you do, and I want you to just kind of think about what I'm saying because it might change how you do things, okay? It just might change how you do things and what you worry about because there's plenty in life to worry about, right? Plenty. Don't worry about credit utilization. Worry about how you're going to get yourself out of debt and think about doing it in a different way. All right, so again, don't sweat it. So don't sweat credit utilization. You can use the cards you have to work down your balances, to get a bigger line, and to become debt free, right? It is really that simple. Now, some people look at this and say, oh, velocity banking seems so complex. You guys, it's not complex. If you think that you are running in your checking account currently and you're doing everything you can and you're chasing your tail all the time because your payments aren't going away, it's taking forever to get things accomplished, then I propose you switch what you're doing, move everything into your credit card and pay everything out of that credit card where you have your income going in and your expenses coming out, which means you are dropping your interest and saving yourself time and saving yourself money. So, proof, promise, plan. I'm going to prove to you that this works, okay? I'm going to prove it. So, here we have students of ours, the parents, I guess I should say, the parents worked with us probably about a year ago, and they emailed us and it had some questions about their son and their son's finances. And I just, because they were concerned about credit utilization. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because we're going to work this debt down so fast. By the time they're ready to purchase a home, they're going to be well on their way. They're not going to have any problems with it, okay? So let's take this example here, and we've got an income of $36.80, okay? Again, it doesn't matter what your income is, whether you have low income or high income. We are all in the same boat when it comes to debt and when it comes to, problems with credit and, using credit, all right? So we're all in the same boat. So learn something different, do something different, just like the son is going to do now. All right, so we've got an income of $36.80. We have total expenses of $3,496 with a cash flow of $184. All right, now I told you they're going to get married next year and they're trying to work down some of these expenses so that they can go ahead, get married, buy a house, and do all the things that Americans dream about, right? And that people from all over the world dream about, not just us, right? Not just us here. So we've got rent at $1,128. We have a car payment of $397. That means that their debt between the car and the rental payment, I should say their payments, are $1,525. Now, they're going to be using credit cards to work down their debt, okay? They're going to be putting all of their income into a credit card and they're running all of their expenses out of that credit card. The reason we do this is to drop our interest, and we continuously drop it month over month if we run our finances this way. All right, so if we take this and we know we have two cards that we want to work with here, it's our Chase card and our Bank of America card. Our Chase card is sitting at $67.80, okay, and it has a $200 payment. It's at 26%. That card is maxed out. They have, if they continue on the traditional banking structure in the system, right? If they continue on in the system, it's going to take them 5 years and 2 months, and they will pay back $5,593 of interest, okay? And that is interest debt, right? That's interest debt because they owe it. Now, this card here, the Bank of America card, it is the limit on that is $11,000, all right? But again, high utilization, right? Even though we know this is maxed out, clearly the Chase card is really high as far as utilization is concerned. But we've got Bank of America at 75.20. We have available balance that we can use, right? If we have an available limit. However, due to what they say your credit utilization should be, that's no good, right? Even though they have room on that card. Again, we're not going to put too much stock into that because we know we're going to work these cards down quickly. So Chase is sitting at $67.80, $200 a month, 26%, $55.93 to pay that back. Bank of America, $75.20, $220 payment, 23% in interest. It'll take 4 years and 9 months to pay that off. It will cost them $4,817 to pay that back if they remain in the traditional banking system. So that means that right now they have $14,300 in credit card debt. They are paying $420 towards those those payments, or towards that debt, I should say, the balance on that debt. And then $10,410 is interest debt. So what are they going to do? And how are they going to get themselves out of debt? Because right now it's going to take 5 years and 2 months, or almost 5 years, 4 years and 9 months to pay all this off. Remember, we got a wedding coming up. They have a wedding next year. They want to get out of this as fast as they can, right? That's their goal. So when we use credit cards to work down debt as our debt destroyer, okay, so favorite way to work down debt is through a line of credit, which would be a home equity line of credit, a personal line of credit, a business line of credit. Those are my absolute favorite ways to do it because I can put all of my income into those lines of credit and I can run all of my expenses then out of those lines of credit. And why can I do that? Because when you have a line of credit, it is connected to your checking account. That means that the checking account, whatever you're running through that checking account, money will pull from that line of credit to cover all of those expenses, okay? So that's why it's my favorite. So what happens is I'm going to take my entire income if I have a line of credit, such as a personal line, a home equity line, or a business line. I'm going to take all of my income and put it onto that card or onto that line of credit. So make a payment of my income right onto that line of credit. And then I'm going to run all of my expenses out of it. And that those expenses will pull from the line of credit through my checking account and I can cover my bills that way. That is how they work. Now, with credit cards, things are a little different, okay? Home equity lines, personal lines, and business lines, everything is chargeable in that sense, okay? So you can put everything through your checking account. All of it's chargeable. When you're working with credit cards, you have to break it out into your chargeables and non-chargeables, and that becomes important because what you cannot charge, you must leave in your checking account to then pay out of the checking account, right? So there are certain things you cannot pay through with a credit card. Other credit cards, and loans, okay? Those two things you can't pay. So can't pay my rent, can't pay my mortgage, can't pay my car payment, can't pay my personal loan payment, I can't pay my personal line of credit payment. I can't pay any of those out of my credit card. So you're thinking, okay, so it's useless to me. It is not, okay? It is not, because we're going to break this down and we're going to show you how we do this, all right? So these guys here cannot pay anything any other way. They're going to use their credit card, okay? And specifically, we are going to use our Bank of America as our debt destroyer. So BOA is going to be our debt destroyer, all right? So what is a debt destroyer? For all you newbies out there that don't know us very well, our debt destroyer is the card or the line of credit that we are using as our tool to destroy our debt, to get rid of it. Okay, so available income to them at this point, we take our total income, okay, the $36.80, and we have to find out what's available to be used to put onto that card as a payment. Now, when I do this, I'm actually going to get back a payment. I am going to get back my debt destroyer payment, which means I don't have to hold it out of my income. It's going to go back in and work down my debt. So let's see this. So $36.80 is my income. $15.25 is the total of my rent in my car. So I'm taking $15.25 and I'm subtracting that from my income. I am also subtracting my $200 Chase card because I'm holding that Chase card out. That Chase card is running separately on the side. I can't put it onto my credit card at this point. So I'm going to wait. This card is too high. I'm not going to roll it into this because I'd be over. Okay, so I can't roll it in yet. I can't do that. So that's okay. We're going to hold it off to the side, which means I have to then subtract that payment out of my income. I am not, however, going to subtract the $220. And why is that? Because that debt destroyer now, okay, the payment that I would have had to make of the $220 is going to be satisfied by my income payment, so I don't owe it. So it comes back and helps me work down my debt faster. So that $220 minus the interest plus the $184 of cash flow that I have is going to go in to work down my debt. Now, some of you out there are like, Jen, why would I want to do that? That just seems so complicated. Why wouldn't I just throw extra money at that credit card? You can. Sure, go right ahead. If you want to do that 100%, you can do it. But I know how life works, and so do you. And most of the time, you're going to find other places to put that money instead of putting extra money on that card. So that means I am going to do it for myself when I use Velocity Banking and I run things through my credit card. Not only that, the convenience of the credit card is ridiculous, right? And some of you have points out there and are earning points. So that's like extra interest that you're getting back to you, right? So you're making money on the side through that. Okay, well, not really, but you know what I mean? Because Amazon's one of my favorite cards. I use it all the time. We are a big Amazon family. We purchase stuff all day long because I don't have time to shop for all these things. So it's nice that I can get that interest back. Okay, tangent, I know it, sorry. Anyway, so we've got $36.80. We subtract off our $15.25. We subtract off our payment for the Chase card because that has to be held back into the checking account, which means I have $1,955 that I'm going to use as my income. That's going to go onto my card, my Bank of America card. That payment is going to satisfy, or that income is going to satisfy the payment I would have had to make. So I get that back to me and I work my card down. So then I have something called chargeable expenses. Well, chargeable expenses are all the things that I can charge: my gas, my groceries, most of my utilities, subscriptions, you name it. There's a million things in this world that we can charge through credit cards. Now, there are some things that they don't want you to pay through a credit card, that they ask you to pay through your checking account. They may offer you a discount to do so. Dan and I work out most of those, and it actually doesn't, it's actually more, it works more in your favor to go ahead and put it on a credit card. Even if you do get a discount through the checking account, you have to run the math on that. But for the most part, we find it's not enough of the savings to even matter at the end of the day, okay? Just so you know that. So our chargeable expenses then are all of the things that you can charge on a credit card. Again, you know, I can't use my rent and my car to charge on that credit card, so I have to hold that out. So here's what it looks like. I take my $34.96, okay, my $34.96, my total expenses. I subtract out what I can't charge, all right? I subtract out my $200 and I subtract out my $220 because, all right, that $220 comes out because it's still a non-chargeable no matter how you look at it, okay? I have to hold out my non-chargeables. The only thing I'm running through that card is chargeables. So when you're working with credit cards, things look a little bit different. You give yourself back income and you leave your expenses as is. When you're working with lines of credit, that's a little different. You're going to then give yourself back your expenses, right? Because your entire income already goes in. So then you get back those payments as deducted from your expenses. But we are working with credit cards today, so we do it this way with chargeables and non-chargeables and available income. Now, so I'm going to use this credit card as my BOA, as my debt destroyer, or they're going to use it as their debt destroyer. I have a BOA card, so I keep saying mine. Anyway, so $75.20 is the starting balance for where he's going to start, okay? And then he's going to bring the income that's available to him, and he's going to make a payment onto that card of his available income. Here's the available income. Here's the available income. That drops his balance to $55.65, okay? So immediately that balance drops. So what does that do to your interest? What does it do? Well, it lowers your interest significantly, doesn't it? Because if I calculate my interest at $75.20, it's going to be a heck of a lot higher than it is at $55.65. Now, realistically though, it's going to be an average because we are going to be charging all of our chargeable expenses through that card. So we need to figure it out as an average. And the beautiful thing about lines of credit cards included, they are calculated on an average daily balance. That's how your interest is calculated. So that's why this works, okay? So here's what's going to happen. So I put my income in, it drops me to $55.65. That means now, in order to figure out what my interest is going to be for that first month, I need to then calculate it, okay? by adding up my high balance and my low balance. I add those two together and divide by 2 to get my average. It's going to give me a year's worth of, or it's going to give me my average. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply it by my interest, which is my 23%, right? So 0.23. So I'm going to multiply it by my interest. When I do that, and when I multiply it by my interest, I'm going to then get a year's worth of interest for that card, okay? But I don't want a year's worth. I want 1 month. So I must then divide it by 12. So if we're going to look at this really quick, and I know I bore people who know how to do this, 75.20, okay, my high balance, I'm going to add it to that, my low balance, 55.65, okay, which is 13.85. So 13.85. I divide that by 2 to get my average, which is at 65.42. And then I multiply that, okay, times my 0.23, which is my interest, which is going to equal 1504. Now that's a year's worth of interest. I don't want a year's worth. I want 1 month. So I then divide it by 12, and that gives me my 125. Okay, now you know how to calculate the interest for this. So I calculate my interest, I get 125. So what happens is I've got my low balance for the month. I have to add back in my chargeable expenses, which is the 1551, and I have to add back in my interest, which is 125, because the bank's always going to get their interest no matter what. They're going to get paid. So they do. So that means I'm back up to 7,241. Well, here's where I need to perform a check. 7,241, is that higher or lower than the 7520? It's lower, right? So I'm working in the right direction. Now I come on to month 2. So I bring it over here because I ran out of board. I've got the 1955 going in, 5286 is what that drops to. Then I bring my expenses in, I bring my interest in, and you can see my interest is $5 less in the next month, right? So I am back up to 69.57. Is 69.57 less than or greater than the 72.41? It is less than. I'm working in the right direction. Now, if I were to let this card go by itself and run it to completion, okay, leaving the Chase card out of it, it would take me 18 months and 1,300 some in interest. But that's not what I'm going to do, because I know that this card here, my Debt Destroyer, has $11,000 of available or as an available limit, right? So I am going to work this card down for 12 months. So that's where I show you it runs for 12 months. The balance then at this point is $3,795. And I know that at this time I am going to bring in my Chase card, right? I'm going to bring in my Chase card because its balance is going to be lowered as well. So when I do that, I'm going to combine the balances and now run it again, okay? So what this will do is it shaves off interest for me. But if I couldn't do that, if I didn't have the availability or the bank wouldn't let me. So what's going to happen is typically they're going to bring this balance over, right? They're going to bring the balance of the Chase card over when this balance at 12 months is at $37.95. Now, they're going to probably have to bring it over at the same interest rate. They may not be offered a 0% or a reduced interest rate. They might not be. So if that's the case, that's fine. They're going to run it at the Bank of America interest rate of 23% when it comes over. But they will be charged a convenience check fee or a balance transfer fee. Okay, they will be charged that. And I know from the fact that Bank of America's is 4%, so theirs will be 4%. So let's see where Chase's balance is at in 12 months while this one has reduced down to $37.95. Let's see where that's at. Now, in the meantime, just so you know, my interest rate for the Bank of America card is down to, I've spent in 12 months $1,123 in interest. This is important because we have to add up all the interest in the end. So I'm going to pause here, erase my board, and I'm going to finish this out for you to see what they can do to help their credit utilization and get their home.
Okay, so here's our Chase card. It's on its payment schedule. So we have the $200 payment. You see how much the balance is. You see how much the payment is. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look at it at 12 months. And as you can see, at 12 months, what our balance is. It's right here. So at 12 months, the $6,061.11. So that balance is what we're going to pull over into our Bank of America card. But we have to make sure that we're adding all of the interest from here on up. Okay, so all of this interest has to be added. So that's what we do when we try to calculate and figure out how long it's going to take us and how much money it's going to cost us at the end of the day when we're done with our strategy. What I'm showing here is the Chase card. So this Chase card here is this is all the interest during the 12 months that they would be running this card alongside their debt destroyer. So that equals the $1,681 and change that they have to then add to their totals, right? Because we can't discount this interest. It's been running alongside of our debt destroyer the whole time. So we're going to add this in to our total numbers when we are done with both of these cards.
Okay, back with some numbers on the board here to finish out our example of what to do when you have high credit utilization. And it's no different than what we're doing today with velocity banking, right? Income in, expenses out into those lines of credit. So here's what happens, right? We know that at 12 months, we are going to bring in our Chase balance. All right. So what is Chase at? Well, if we take a look at our Chase balance at 12 months, it's going to be $661. That means our interest, so Chase balance is, here's our 6061. That means the interest that we've paid while this was running, okay, so while Chase was running outside of our debt destroyer was 1,681. Remember, it's at that 26%, so it's a little bit higher. Now, when we bring it over, we know we're going to have that balance transfer fee of 4%. So that's going to cost $242. The simplest way to figure it, you guys, is just to take the amount you're bringing over, multiply it by your percentage or turn it into a decimal to get the dollar amount. You should always, make it fit within your availability that way. Now, what we then do is we're going to take our 6061. We have to add the 20, or we have to add the 242, and then we have to bring over our Bank of America balance because that's what our debt destroyer is at. It's dropped down to $3,795. So putting those all together, we are under our limit. We are at $10,098. Our limit was 12 or is 12 on his card. So our income then comes in, and wait, what do we have here? We can see that our interest is different, right? Not our interest, our income. This is income. Our income is different. Over here, we see that our income is $1,955. Well, we have to add the $200 back in, don't we? Because we are now eliminating our Chase card, right? We've eliminated it. We're rolling it into one card, which is the Bank of America card. And that means we get $200 back. So this becomes more income that we get to work with. So now we have 10,098. Our income comes in. It drops us to 79.43. 79.43 to perform our checks. Is that lower or higher than what we started out with, the 10,098? Well, it's lower. So we're running this correctly, right? We're running it in the right direction so far. All right. Now, as our expenses come in and our interest is applied, we are back up to 9,666. Again, you do your checks. Your 9,666 is less than the 10,098. So we're moving in the right direction. And continue to check yourself month over month, because if you go up, you guys, it's because of overspend, most likely, or you haven't calculated what you need, okay, as far as your expenses are concerned, when to bring your expenses in. You have to hold money out to take care of that from paychecks. And we go over all of that on timing because that becomes important. So the danger that people can run into when they run their finances this way is they're so used to their money in their checking account, their checking account, that when it's gone, right? So they don't have any more to use. So people will sometimes overspend on their card because they're not paying attention. So you have to pay attention. You have to stick with your budget, all right? We're not saying you have to trim anything down ridiculously to do any of this. So the great thing about velocity banking is that when you run finances this way, you can do what you're currently doing. Don't go nuts, right? Don't go nuts. It means you can't do more, but you can do what you're currently doing and you will come out just fine, provided you're paying attention and you're running it the way that you should be according to the budget that you're currently on. Now, if you want to get really fancy, you can go ahead and cut some of those expenses that you have, and then you're going to work your plan even faster. All right. It just happens naturally. It works faster that way. So overspend can happen, and it's just because you're not paying attention to how much you're spending on that card. So make sure you're sticking to your budget. All right. Now, and Dan did something about budgets the other day, just telling you sometimes it's worth those budget apps. Sometimes it is. Not me. I like to do everything with pen and paper. So I will figure it out on pen and paper first rather than go to an app. But that's just me. Some of you are like that too, I bet. Okay, so now we're at 9,666. So we come into the next month here, our income comes in, the 2155, it drops us to 7943, again, lowering our interest, right? Because you can see here, the interest that's going to be applied is 164 versus the 172. So guess what? That interest savings goes back in to work your debt down, doesn't it? Because you would have been paying at that high interest. Because remember, $200 on that Chase card, right? It was $200 a month. Not all of that is going to balance. As a matter of fact, I bet most of it's going to interest. So we know that, when you make a payment, people think that it all goes into their card. It doesn't. Some of it's applied to interest. So your balances don't move, especially with the new way that they've figured how they're, calculating what they're going to put to your balance versus what they get in interest. All right, so that's beside the point. So now we go from 172 to 164. We're down to 9,226. Is 9,226 less than or greater than the 9,666? Well, it's less than, so we're working in the right direction. We're keeping to our budget. We're going to make this work. So at the end of the day, what do they save and how much do they spend? Well, let's look at this. So we know we have to add up all of our interest, right? What did we start with? I think we've got 1123, and we have to add the 1681, and then we have to add the 1670. And because I forgot to tell you, it took us 16 months to finish this plan. Okay, 16 months to finish all of the cards together. So what does this end up costing us? It costs us $4,474 in interest. And how much time did it take? Well, we're going to take 16 and we're going to add it to 12. So that is what? 28 months. So you tell me, what's better? Is it so complicated that we can't do it? Absolutely not, you guys. Dan and I got out of debt doing this right here. We got ourselves out and we were in big debt, right? So if we can do it and we are no different than you, then I know you can do it too. It is not difficult. It is not difficult, and it doesn't matter your income level. It doesn't matter. Makes no difference. So here he will be in 28 months. He is going to be debt-free, okay? He will have spent $4,474. He would have spent $10,410. So is velocity banking worth it? Absolutely, 100% all day long. Is it going to work in every situation? No, there's times you have to tweak things and times you have to really look at your finances. But most of the time, you guys can make this work. Most of the time, it's going to work out for you. Have an awesome day, you guys. Again, if you want our worksheets, just email us. We'll be happy to send those for you. Our app is coming out. We've got our course. It's just about ready. I think it'll be a couple weeks here, and we're ready to launch that for you. So the app is going to do nothing but take all of the guesswork out. You guys will be able to work this down. Now, you always have to stay in a budget. The app is great, and we love it, but we can't run your finances. So you guys do have to stick to some kind of budget. And once you do that, you're going to find this is a phenomenal way to reduce your debt, reduce your interest, and live life finally financially free. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.